So a lot of you are working from home, and if there's anything I've learned over the years in my own body, it's that a lot of times the work that we do is damaging, and it can come from small repetitive movements. So we end up in a lot of pain when we are repeating the same movements over and over, and or sinking into positions that might not be efficient or ergonomic, not really supporting our structures. So back when I worked at the Star Telegram, there were points where I just got to where I felt like I was in so much pain in my upper back and neck, I could barely turn my head, and I had to figure out how to kind of keep reorganizing and redesigning my workstation in order to be in better positions. One of the problems that I had even started after we got new office chairs, and they seemed nice at first, and then I didn't realize that what was happening was because the armrests were different, and I would start to put my elbows on the armrest. They were causing my shoulders to come up a little bit and just be in a bad spot continuously. And I had already moved the armrests down as low as I could get them, but I have really long arms, and I would try not to put my arms on there, and that wasn't working either, because I would end up subconsciously creeping there at points, and they were just kind of in the way. And so at a certain point I asked one of the maintenance guys to just come take the armrests off my chair and entirely just remove them, and that made a big difference. Different things along the way. It's like trying to figure out the exact height I really needed my chair at, and you don't want to be sitting on a chair where if you feel like the front edge of your chair is cutting into your leg at all, that's really not a good height chair for you. So you either need a lower chair or you need something under your feet. And for where I needed to be with different things, there was a point where I realized there was simply no footrest anybody could bring to me that was going to work. And I ended up just finding a cardboard box that was a good height that helped with that. I got a little clip thing for off the side of my monitor to hang some of my work there, so that made some of that easier. Of course, how high what you're looking at can have a big effect on your neck. And so, because I was spending so many hours there staring at that screen, I had ended up like putting my monitor up on top of a box to get it higher up. And so I had to just kind of keep playing around with all these different things, keyboard tray or not, how these things relate with each other. Of course, when we're working from laptops, this is a whole other problem, because there's really not anything you can do to get your screen higher at eye level, and everything is tending to pull us forward into bad posture. If you don't have a standing desk that can go up and down, you might think about, is there some work you could just go ahead and do from standing, even with your laptop up on a higher counter, like in your kitchen. I've had a lot of clients over the years who have actually ended up with strange injuries because they sat in bed too long with a laptop or an iPad or a phone, or maybe they've got like one leg up and one leg down and they're staying like that for hours. We all tend to do things like this, and in terms of like sinking into a favored side or whatever it might be. And if you stop and analyze some of the things that you might be doing every day, which can reinforce bad habits, I mean, this is all of us, I tend to sink into this side from my scoliosis and stuff. So, and whether you have natural structural asymmetry, everybody ends up with asymmetry because we are living in human bodies where you have a dominant side, and that dominant side affects all of your movement all day long, every day. And that builds up over years and decades. So like if you're right-handed, you're probably right-footed. You probably start up the stairs with the same foot every time you climb stairs. Every time you go to reach for something with your right hand, you are, like, the other side of your body is preparing and stabilizing for you to be able to do the movement with the leading side. So all these things affect us all day long, every day. And we have to figure out how to break up these patterns. If you find yourself sitting more than usual, we all need to figure out how to get up and move around more. And the longer you sit, your hip flexors get tighter and tighter, your hamstrings and glutes get turned off. Those muscles don't want to fire as efficiently when you do go to stand up. In a few minutes, I will be giving a few tips on some hamstring and glute activation things that you can do at home. Good luck. Sorry, I just realized I didn't really say everything about the whole arm, wrist, shoulder angle thing in relation to the workstation as what I intended to say. And the thing is, in relation to your wrist angle and your arm, ideally your shoulder should be able to sit easily, just resting kind of on the back, that your upper arm is relatively hanging down, and that your forearm is able to be about horizontal to the floor without a big break in your wrist. And that if you have a little creep up here, or your wrists are going some direction or another, these combination, and even how far forward you might be reaching to reach your keyboard. This is one of the reasons that a lot of people end up putting keyboard trays, attaching them under their desk so that you can pull that out. And then, of course, some keyboard trays have more than one adjustment for where you can drop them down from, but depending on where you're able to set your keyboard tray, you may still have to play around with the height of your chair, which then, of course, affects what's under your feet, whether you need a footrest, a box, whatever, to try to get all those angles to line up. So having some kind of a wrist rest also that can be on your keyboard tray. A lot of times people just don't realize how much all of this adds up into pain, and that your muscles just end up being in positions where the joints and muscles are in positions where they're getting strained, overuse, repetitive use. They're not getting contrasted use, We need to do different kinds of movement of the wrists and fingers. We need to keep those shoulders being able to move in different directions. There's a tendency to want to kind of slump. So anything that's going to help you, activate your upper back, get those extensors moving, trying to pull your head back into alignment. I mean, I'm as guilty of this as anybody else, and we just have to try to keep figuring it out as we go along. But I do know that over the years, I've seen a lot of situations where when people started working from home or ended up just being home more than usual, they ended up being in more pain because they were setting themselves up in workstations which really weren't ideal. Whether it was their dining room table or the couch or their sitting on their bed, whatever. Sorry. Just take care.